Hello and welcome back to an edition, the first in quite a long time, in roughly 2 months, of the best recycling podcast, if I do say so myself. Recycle, don't be a waster. Firstly, we haven't been recording for a couple of months due to different things. I was overseas and caught up with some other things, but great to be back. Updating you with the latest recycling news. One of the things, I suppose one of the problems, maybe I talk about problems too much, but one of the things I often think when I see replacements for plastic. So one of the big movements or trends you'll see in global packaging is new, more environmentally friendly, more organic, plant-based or something, more organic materials being used for packaging, whereas up to recently we've been relying on petrochemicals to make plastics, and obviously plastics have a huge number of negative impacts on the environment. So when I see replacements for these, I often, made from cane sugar or paper or other aspects, I often think there is going to be a negative in the utility of that product, whether the shelf life, whether how it feels to use it. To call me old-fashioned, but using a paper straw isn't as good as using a plastic straw, because the paper straw will soften, it will get a bit mushy. So clearly there are, let's be honest, the reason plastic is ubiquitous and so popular as a packaging material is because of its great features, ignoring the environmental aspect, but its great features are durable. You can colour it any way you like. It's tasteless. It does have health negatives also, we've covered in previous podcasts. But when you're using the product, it doesn't really have that. And so when I see, I like to really believe that these new packaging materials will change the world, but I can often see there are little negatives. So that's the negative, but the positive is, I think we're going to talk today about mushroom-based packaging. And the great thing about that is it's targeting a material which I personally think those negatives we've mentioned, such as going mushy or, that aspect, it won't really be as big of an issue. So what is this product we're talking about? If you, some members of my family love internet shopping and you get packaging through the post, and whether it's furniture, whether it's electronic products, any consumer items, nearly always they come in a cardboard box, and quite often inside that cardboard box there will be expanded polystyrene, or styrofoam is, I think styrofoam's a brand name for polystyrene. There could be slight differences in the chemical makeup, but to all intents and purposes for our usage here, styrofoam, expanded polystyrene, they are sort of the same thing. And when I'm talking about this, you know what I'm talking about. It's the very light but sort of rigid. It can be rigid or it can be softer, but it's often rigid, and it's white plastic, almost inflated up, and it can sometimes crumble as well. It quite often will crumble if you rub your hand on it, which obviously leads to pollution and microplastics and all that bad stuff. So, but that's generally what styrofoam or polystyrene is expanded polystyrene is used for, and the beauty of when we're talking about mushroom packaging or mushroom-based packaging is designed to target this market. It's designed to do exactly what styrofoam, expanded polystyrene does, which is provide, a neutral packaging material to absorb bumps and bruises. It's a low-grade plastic. It's not going to be used for enveloping, drinks containers or that sort of stuff. So that usability aspect to it will not be that important, and it will be nearly always kept dry as long as you're, I think we've all had packaging delivered where sometimes it might get a bit wet, so that would probably create an issue. But let's assume a perfect world where your packaging doesn't get wet, it arrives at your house, and this material looks and feels like traditional styrofoam or expanded polystyrene. So what actually is mushroom-based packaging? So my understanding is that it is developed from an aspect of the mushroom, a standard mushroom, I believe, And there's a number of companies involved in this, and it's receiving quite a bit of investment funding from investment houses. The first one I can see is 2006. Ecovative Design LLC started developing a product to replace styrofoam made from mushrooms. Another UK-based company with the great name Magical Mushroom Company, which might insinuate other things for people of a certain age, they developed their mushroom packaging by combining two components: mycelium, which is the root structure of a mushroom that has a natural polymer called chitin, and agricultural waste. Just reading the specs here, it was specifically created to replace fossil fuel-based packaging such as expanded polystyrene, EPS, polyethylene foam, extruded polystyrene, XPS foam, and packaging inserts. So you can really see the benefits of it. You can see that there's clearly a large market for this, and if this product will break down naturally, it's a huge win. Obviously, Waster, we focus on waste and recycling, and expanded polystyrene is generally not recycled. As a rule, in Australia, it very rarely will be recycled due to there not being a collection service available. It tends to go in general waste. It clearly is. It's flammable, so it can be used for incineration, and it will be used in that context to generate electricity in certain areas. But a very large percentage of this product currently ends up in landfill, and obviously a certain percentage of it too ends up in our waterways. If you've ever tried to put polystyrene into a bin, even at your house, you'll be aware that it crumbles and parts of it drop off, the little small pieces. So if we can get away from this, it's a huge benefit. The specs for this material that I'm reading are that it can last, if kept dry, for up to 30 years. It's 30 years of shelf life in dry conditions, and it can biodegrade and break down into its component, I suppose the mushroom organics, in as short as 45 days. So huge benefits, very few seeming negatives, and this is one that I can see as a win-win. Major corporations are getting involved with it. I've seen that IKEA and people like that are trying to push it for their packaging, and even move towards it to almost completely displace traditional expanded stuff from their packaging. So I think that's something we should fully support. Hopefully it will take off, and I'd love to see it take 100% of the market, because just the sheer volume of expanded polystyrene going into landfill every year, I don't know what the capacity is, but it must be huge. So we'll leave it there today. It's a nice, good news story. I hope investment funds get behind it. When we're seeing a lot of banning on used plastics that have come in many Australian states on July 1 this year, I think maybe down the line, expanded polystyrene, hopefully that'll be phased out too. So we are moving in the right direction in many ways, and I think we just got to keep going, is the old saying. What did Churchill say? If you're going through hell, keep going. We're not going through hell by any means, but we're moving, hopefully in some ways, we are moving in the right direction. So we'll leave it there today and recycle. Don't be a waster.